My people, welcome back to the Amos Perspective after a long break. Today, we are going to ask a question that is painful, but it is necessary. Nigeria has talent, Nigeria has youth, Nigeria has resources. Yet the backbone of the nation, our infrastructure, still looks like a project that somebody abandoned halfway. So the big question is this: who dropped the ball? And I am not asking this as an academic question, I am asking it as a survival question. Because when power fails, you pay twice. When roads fail, food prices rise. When rail is unsafe, business slows down. When water systems fail, people die quietly. So let us talk about the infrastructure backlog paradox. From 1999 to 2025. Roads, rail, power, water, governance, financing, and most importantly, the way forward. If you are ready, let us go. Nigeria's infrastructure story is a paradox. Largest economy in Africa, but a physical foundation that is cracked, insufficient, and in some places, obsolete. Now here is the part that should make you pause. Over the last 3 decades, Nigeria has lost an estimated $3 trillion in economic potential because key infrastructure has not matched the nation's ambition. Think about what $3 trillion means. Jobs, hospitals, schools, industries, rail networks, ports that work. It is not small money. And the infrastructure deficit is not a later problem. It is a now tax on every Nigerian. Factories run diesel because grid power is unstable. Logistics becomes a gamble because highways are broken. And the cost of goods rises because the cost of movement rises. Then there is the part we ignore too often. Water and sanitation. Listen carefully. A large share of households still consume unsafe water, and open defecation remains a major issue. So while people shout about fuel and electricity, water kills in silence. This is why this topic is not just policy talk. It is life. Let me explain something in simple terms. Bad infrastructure creates a hidden fee, a penalty, a tax. Call it the Nigeria premium. And this premium shows up in 3 major ways. First, energy. For many manufacturers, energy can take up to 40% of production costs, because they generate their own power with diesel or gas. Second, logistics. We have all heard this painful comparison, that moving a container from Apapa into the hinterland can cost more than shipping that container from China to Lagos. Third, agriculture. When rural roads are poor and storage is weak, perishable goods rot. Post-harvest losses can exceed 40%. So when food prices rise, it is not always because farmers are greedy. Sometimes the road is the thief. The lack of cold chain is the thief. The lack of storage is the thief. And now add the final layer: debt. In recent years, borrowing expanded, and debt service began to choke revenue space. So government borrows to build, but cannot maintain what it builds, and then the assets decay quickly. That is a vicious cycle. Borrow, build, struggle, abandon maintenance, decay, borrow again. Now let us do the autopsy. Administration by administration. 1. Obasanjo era, 1999 to 2007. This era had a major win: debt relief. A big debt deal reduced Nigeria's external burden dramatically and, in theory, freed resources for development. But here is where the ball was dropped. Power projects were pursued, yet gas supply infrastructure and transmission capacity did not match the ambition. So you had generation assets sitting idle or underperforming because the system around them was incomplete. That is classic Nigeria. Build the visible thing, ignore the invisible system that makes it work. Institutions were also created to improve procurement credibility, but the rot was deep and bottlenecks remained. 2. Yaradua era, 2007 to 2010. This was the policy freeze. Projects were paused for reviews and probes. The intention might have been probity, but the outcome was paralysis. Contractors demobilized, equipment decayed, legal disputes dragged, momentum died, and with high oil prices during parts of that period, Nigeria lost a window to fund a major push. 3. Jonathan era, 2010 to 2015. This era is remembered for one big move: power sector privatization. PHCN was unbundled into Gencos and Discos. But the country entered a privatization trap. Assets went to groups without the technical depth or capital strength to fix decay at scale, and the sector entered a liquidity crisis spiral. But to be fair, there was progress in rail. rehabilitation of older lines, and the early momentum for standard gauge projects like Abuja to Kaduna. 4. Buhari era, 2015 to 2023. This was the borrow to build era. Major projects were delivered: Abuja to Kaduna Rail, Lagos to Ibadan Rail, Second Niger Bridge. Then two important mechanisms stood out. 1. Special purpose infrastructure funding designed to bypass budget bottlenecks. 2. The road infrastructure tax credit approach, allowing private companies to build roads and recover costs through tax credits. This scheme produced quality roads in key corridors, including rigid pavement concrete roads in some cases. But here is the ball drop. Debt expanded while revenue growth did not match. Debt service began to consume an alarming share of government revenue. So the next administration inherited a tight fiscal space. 5. Tinubu era, 2023 to 2025. This era brought reform shock, fuel subsidy removal, exchange rate reforms, and then a harsh reality. Construction costs spiked. Materials like bitumen, steel, and cement surged in price. Contractors slowed down or requested variations. At the same time, government signaled continuity of major projects, but with more focus on PPPs and tolling, because the federal balance sheet is stretched. So that is the story. Different eras, different mistakes, but one continuous outcome. The backlog remained. Let us move sector by sector. Roads. Nigeria has roughly 200,000 kilometers of roads, and roads carry most passenger and freight traffic. But a minority is paved, and maintenance is weak. A major structural failure is the federal and state mismatch. Federal roads pass through states, but states may lack authority to fully intervene, while the federal system is slow and distant. Another issue is sustainable maintenance funding. A strong road fund structure has been discussed for years, but implementation has been inconsistent and maintenance suffers. And then the Second Niger Bridge becomes the symbol of delay. Proposed for decades, completed in 2023, a delay that carried massive opportunity cost. Rail. Rail saw visible modernization. Demand is real. People want safe, affordable movement. But then security failures changed everything. The Abuja to Kaduna attack in March 2022 became a national warning. Hardware without security is vulnerability. Power. Power remains the sick man of the economy. Discos struggle with collection, metering gaps, and technical losses. They under-remit. Gencos suffer, gas suppliers suffer, and the whole chain becomes stressed. The national grid also collapses too often, and transmission wheeling remains a bottleneck despite higher installed generation potential. The bright spot is decentralization by necessity. Mini-grids, off-grid solar solutions. When the central system cannot reach everyone, people build alternatives. Water and sanitation. This is the silent emergency. Many households still consume unsafe water, and open defecation remains widespread. Water is largely a state and local responsibility, but many water agencies are weak, underfunded, and not managed for performance. So old infrastructure decays and new systems do not scale. This is where many people do not like to talk, because it is not as dramatic as a collapsed bridge. But it is the real engine of failure: procurement bottlenecks. Procurement is meant to ensure value, but pricing databases can be outdated, not matching inflation realities. So contracts are awarded at unrealistic rates, and projects get abandoned when costs rise. And approvals can drag for months, while exchange rates and inflation move quickly. PPP credibility problem. Investors fear contract instability. When concessions are revoked or changed across administrations, it increases political risk and the cost of financing. Budget padding. This is a major one. Lawmakers insert thousands of micro-projects, so instead of funding a strategic project properly, money gets scattered. A road needing 10 billion might get 200 million. And you know what that means. No completion, just signboards, abandoned projects. Nigeria has a heavy history of abandoned projects. Big ones, symbolic ones. Projects started without sustainable demand, sound financing, or disciplined governance. Let us be honest, the oil rent era is fading, so the financing conversation must mature. Some financing tools have shown promise. 1. Sukuk. Ring-fenced, project-specific, more disciplined. 2. Special purpose infrastructure funding models that reduce annual budget uncertainty and keep strategic projects moving. 3. domestic credit enhancement models that can unlock pension funds for infrastructure. Because if pension funds hold trillions, the question is how to invest safely in long-term assets. This is how serious countries build, not by prayer alone, by systems. Now I want to end with something practical and hopeful. Nigeria needs what I call positive jugaad, local innovation that fits our reality. Let me clarify. Jugaad is a flexible approach to problem solving that uses limited resources in an innovative way. Think of faster construction models for schools and clinics, modular bridges for flood-prone areas, citizen monitoring tools, smart water kiosks, affordable treatment solutions that work at community level. But innovation alone is not enough. So what must Nigeria do? Here is the roadmap, simplified. First, legislative lock-in. Stop policy discontinuity. Codify long-term infrastructure plans so every new government does not start from zero. Second, decentralize power properly. Let states build electricity markets that work and scale mini-grids where the national grid cannot reach. Third, digitize governance, reduce human discretion and corruption points. Digitize procurement and PPP processes. Fourth, ring-fence critical funding. Move key projects away from fragile budget cycles. Use credible SPVs with professional asset management. Fifth, community ownership for rural assets. Train local youth, pay them, make maintenance real. Not build and abandon. My people, the ball is on the floor and heavy, burdened by debt and decay, but Nigeria can pick it up. If we stop treating infrastructure like politics and start treating it like survival. If this episode made sense to you, share it with one person. Just one. Because this conversation must move from social media noise to civic demand. Subscribe for more episodes in this style. This is the Amos Perspective Energy. Honest, patriotic and practical. See you next time for more incisive analysis of national issues.